A South Korean court is preparing to deliver its verdict on the country's former president. The corruption scandal ousted Park Geun-hye from office last year. She's accused of taking bribes and seeking favors from major conglomerates, including the phone maker Samsung. Let's go straight to Bruce Harrison, who's live for us in Seoul. Bruce, so remind us again about the charges that Park faces and what kind of outcome she could face today.
Definitely. Well, I'm standing right outside Seoul Central District Court right now, where former President Park will not appear. She is still at a detention center just outside the city. Her legal team will be here representing her against 18 charges she faces, including allegations of bribery, leaking state secrets, and abuse of power. The story goes all the way back to late 2016, when the former president was accused of allowing a close friend of hers to dictate policy here in South Korea, despite having no authorized position to do so. As far as the outcome, prosecutors want 30 years for President Park, and in just about an hour from now, they're going to begin reading through the merits of this case. It's unclear how many guilty verdicts will be returned on the many charges she faces. Another interesting note, this is the first time that a court case at the Seoul Central District Court will be broadcast live to the public in South Korea. They deemed it in the public interest to show this case and this verdict to the people of South Korea, many of which, millions last year, pushed for President Park to be impeached.
Indeed, those thousands of people that came out on the streets to protest against Park and what she'd been accused of. It's worth pointing out that this is not a unique situation. There are other leaders, other presidents in South Korea who've been accused of corruption before.
Very many indeed, and actually just within the past several weeks, Park's predecessor, former President Im Young-bak, was questioned on corruption charges as well. And before him, many presidents, whether personally or family members, have been accused of corruption. And there's a vicious cycle here in South Korea of big business, corporations, and politics mingling. And I think a lot of South Koreans, those that you mentioned that protested against President Park Geun-hye, are trying to break that cycle. And Park's case is certainly the most high profile. She was the first president to be removed from office while sitting, to be arrested, to be jailed, and now possibly be charged with these crimes and actually sentenced to jail. It's worth noting that one of the biggest business leaders in South Korea, Lee Jae-young, the head of Samsung, got caught up in this whole scandal. He was charged, convicted, jailed, and then released several months later. So there is still room for some of these people to apparently avoid the justice that many South Koreans think they deserve. But with Park, we're going to have to wait and see this afternoon.
So will this case have any impact on South Korea's chronic political corruption problem?
Well, that's a hard question to answer. I think that's what the people want, and I think they were so fed up with this cycle in South Korea of corruption, as I said, mingling with politics, that the Park scandal as big as it is. I think the court, through the people, is perhaps trying to send a message that this cycle needs to end. And if that's the case, Park will very likely face a tough sentence. But it's hard to say what will come down in the end, and if perhaps she can avoid jail time through an appeal that's successful, or maybe even a presidential pardon, as some of her predecessors have been given. Moon Jae-in, though, took office in a climate that was very unforgiving for these leaders who involved themselves in corruption. So for President Park, a message may be sent, and then perhaps, yes, things will change here.
Bruce Harrison, there for us in Seoul. Many thanks.